Okay, so here we go. New York Times wrote up this piece about a July 2023 change in Google's trademarks advertising that has been challenging nonprofits. This change actually is born from an EU digital policy that was put in place. So they had to comply with this. And in short, what is happening is that like St. Jude, who's mentioned in this, for example, or the Samaritan House, they have search results, right? So you search for their brand. So I'm going to say brand reputation terms. So all those terms related to St. Jude Hospitals, donate to St. Jude. You're thinking about this ecosystem of words. What's happening inside of the Google marketplace for the sponsored area of like you pay to play to show up in those results, is that other organizations are now allowed to use their branded terms to advertise their stuff, which on the surface is like, okay, but what is the second order effect? Well, what's started to happen, and they call out in this article, is that groups that are sort of like tier 3 search engines like ask.com or like InfoSeek, whatever, like these groups that are now advertising for branded nonprofit key terms to send traffic to their search results for that topic. And you're like, sure, it's an open marketplace. However, it's a marketplace based on bidding strategies. So to show up number one, it's not like I pay for that billboard and I automatically get it. No, it's a dynamic billboard that changes based on an algorithm, based on how much is bid for the placement, based on the quality of the text and keywords associated with it, combined with the quality of the landing page and relevance to the topics. All of this stuff is mixed up into this soup. And long story short, or long story long, because I've already gone long on this, is that because of this marketplace dynamic, nonprofits, especially in December, which were paying to show up for their branded terms, donate to St. Jude's and things like that, were paying significantly more because of this marketplace dynamic of outside groups like these search engines, ask.com, being like, hey, interested in St. Jude's, you should take a look at the search result. And like, that's not going to send that person who's in a giving moment to go to the landing page they desired. So New York Times is trying to like explain this, and they have one incident where, and they didn't cite the source and they didn't give full details, but a nonprofit spending like $200,000 in 5 days to show up for their terms in the last days of the year, significantly blowing through their marketing budget. You know, I have questions about why you throw good money after bad in those particular moments, but does this make sense? Did I do it? Did I make a long story long, but at least explain it?
It did. You did a very good job explaining it. But then the first thing that popped into my mind is like, oh, okay, so do I need to start searching for alternative advertising channels? Like, what do I need to learn from this? Or do I panic and go somewhere else? Or like, what do I do?
Leo, you should definitely always panic.
Oh.
One thing our eyes, step one, I want blind, unadulterated panic with irrational decision-making at speed. I think that's important. Seriously, though, you can't ignore Google search. Can't do it. It is 90% of the market share for people discovering information. Okay, so that's where people are going to play. The next thing I would point us toward is the fact that actually this is in part, I believe, the genesis of why the Google Ad Grant exists. Google and its knowledge and its access to data was aware that like, look, nonprofits are going to need to play in this very, very expensive game, which is why they have given away since 2003, $17 billion, B with a B. It is the most generous corporate donation program in history. I challenge anyone to find me a number that is larger and more accurate than that. 17 billion, according to that statement, that allows nonprofits to play this game. However, you need to know how to leverage this grant. Because of this, the thread to pull and to look up is about maximizing bidding for conversions. And that lets you escape the $2 limit on the keyword spend. And what you need to do is talk to your agency. And if you don't have an agency, come find us. We have a bunch of friends at Nonprofitist who can help you. You want to set up a campaign with that maximized bidding strategy, with a bucket of your branded keywords that just can run and compete and fight for your spot. You can't push everyone else out, but can fight for your spot in the branded search term results for your organization. And that, I gotta say, is a heck of a lot more than I see Microsoft doing and any other platform doing. So yes, this is kind of used as a bit of a a straw man for attacking Google as a monopoly for what they, really do own in terms of the knowledge search. But it's not like they're ignoring nonprofits.
Well, it's very good advice for nonprofits in general. And I think this will definitely affect smaller nonprofits that, don't have big budgets and capabilities to do this type of advertisement. But,
Yeah. And I think there's like an assumption of malicious intent, which I don't think is there, to be honest, with like, you're angry at ask.com. How dare they? Like, you know what it is? There's somebody in a marketing program clicking a button being, give me related keywords associated with this. And actually on the back end of what Google actually in their search results and their ad search platforms are doing are giving you related keyword terms. So let's just say you have search results for nonprofits. It's like, hey, try these keywords. And you're like, okay. And it's just algorithmically, even on its own sometimes, if you set it a certain way, just adding keywords that it thinks are relevant. So without malicious intent, it is just trying to monetize attention wherever it finds it based on this keyword related to this keyword related to this keyword. And you're adding 50, 100,000 keywords in this batch. Like, honestly, I'm if your mind immediately went, how dare they? And by the way, they have said you can reach out to them. So if you do a little sort of gardening, a little spring cleaning on your search results, which you should always do, you can actually contact folks and be like, hey, I'm sure it's just an accident. Like, don't start off with the like cease and desist. I'm sure it's just an accident, an oversight. It seems like you're advertising for, the Red Cross San Francisco. Would you mind like changing your targeted keywords? We pay for this and trying to find volunteers on it. Thank you. Like, I think they'll hear you out and they'll be like, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that. I'd be shocked if it were like with malicious intent there. And they like, I don't know if the New York Times like fairly painted with that brush, because they had an agenda on the monopoly angle against Google, I think, in general.
And I wonder also like how much information did they have before they put this out. So, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Be interesting to ask them their process.